Hey guys, it's Steve with Interglobal Comics. So I was going to just kind of make a video today. I haven't really been able to track many sales this past week or so, but I wanted to take a look at the Heritage auction that's coming up. It just went live a couple days ago, and they've been kind of adding books and removing books and kind of mixing it up, because when this auction was kind of first announced and they first started listing the comics, I think a lot of people were real concerned. The mix of comics was pretty bad. I mean, there was like no keys. Everything was like low grade, and just a lot of books that a lot of people in the community just really couldn't figure out why they were even being graded in the first place, and why now they were going to a heritage auction. But luckily, in the past, I'd say 6 months or so, more people, kind of in the foreign comic community, have kind of submitted their books, stepped up, and they wanted to make this auction, I guess, kind of a bigger deal than what it was. Because I think had it gone off, had they originally planned, and I would say probably that auction would have been a disaster. But now we've gotten way more books in, way more variety, and a better variety of books. So I think, I have way more faith in this auction now than when I first kind of looked at it. I had considered maybe submitting a few books, but when I first saw that first wave of submissions that were going to be auctioned off, I was like, oh man, this is looking real rough. I think I'll hold out. But since then, it's gotten definitely better. So I figured today I'm just going to go through, not going to go through all of them, obviously. There's 420 or 461 of them. But I'll just kind of go through the ones that seem to be the most popular and seem to be getting the most views and the most action, I guess you could say. So let's see. Go to browse. So I'm going to just take a look at the most active, which I guess is the ones with the most bids and the most people tracking them. I'd say that's probably a pretty good, pretty good way to judge what's going to go pretty high. So it seems like this Spider-Man one from Brazil is kind of the hot ticket item right now. It's gotten the most action. It's already up to $850. 8.5, that's extremely high grade for Brazil. This was printed in 1969. Beautiful cover, beautiful kind of recoloring that they did on the cover. And these aren't easy to find. I think I have one. I think it's either a 4.0 or a 5.0, and back when I bought it a few years ago, I paid directly from Brazilian marketplace, Mercado Libre, that they use there, which Americans can't buy on. I had to use a friend in Brazil to actually buy me the book, but I think I paid at least $300-400 for it, raw. And when you're buying a book raw from Brazil, there's a very high chance it's going to have restoration, it's going to have color touch. You just never know. It's definitely a huge gamble. So for me at that time, that was a huge amount of money for a book. I had really no idea whether it was going to come back restored or be worth the money or not. But luckily, it came back, and I think it's a 4.0. Came back blue label, and I'm very happy to have that in my collection. So an 8.5, this is definitely nosebleed high grade for Brazilian books. So I think, and where this one goes, I have no idea. I've never purchased anything on Heritage. I've only ever really tracked the last Mexican La Prensa wedding issue that sold on Heritage, thinking maybe I had a shot at it, which it was pretty much laughable because it sold for $15,000. I bid it up to about 1,000, and then I was like, okay, I guess I'm out of my price range here. These guys are going big, and it jumped from 3,000 to 15,000 like it was nothing. So yeah, and I think this is probably going to go really high. I'll have to do a little research, see what like a high grade ASM1 from America sells for. I'm not really sure if the American collectors realize, how how rare it is to find, a book in this high of grade in Brazil. But it should really command a premium over the American copy. But we'll have to just kind of to see how that pans out. Because the chance of finding another real high grade copy like this is pretty slim. All right, so behind that one in the auction, we've got the Brave and the Bold 28, also from Brazil, from Ebal was a publisher, and this one was printed in 1968. This one is up to $350, and 8.0 again, same time period as that Spider-Man. That's insanely high grade. This one actually belongs to Josh, who's in the Foreign Comic Group. This one, I think he has pretty high hopes, and he has this one listed for $30,000 on eBay, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere near that. But who knows? You're playing with a different pool of players, I guess, when you're listing books on Heritage. But yeah, I think this book has the potential probably to pull $10,000, maybe more, maybe less. I'm not really sure. But 8.0 is real high grade for this book, and beautiful book, hard to find. Any of these books that collectors were able to kind of get their hands on probably before this auction was probably a pretty good idea, because this auction could, if it goes like the Mexican non-canon issue, if it goes like that, things could get a little crazy. So yeah, that's kind of second getting the most action. Second one getting the most action. Here's another one of Josh's books. This is the Paquito the Mexican. Contains Superman, or Action Comics 1. I forget which page it is. I think it says it on here. Yeah, it contains page 3 of Action Comics 1. So this is actually like the backside of a magazine, Mexican magazine, and I think there's only like 2 known copies of this. This is what the front looks like. They actually slabbed it backwards, so this is the front of the magazine. It's on the back of the slab, and then the Action Comics page is on the back page of the magazine, which is the front of the slab. I think there's some grumblings that they think this will go crazy high. I don't know. For me, it's cool that it has a page from Action 3, and then it's from 1938. But it's just one page. To me, that's just kind of like, it's not enough of the story that's going to really do it for me. Not that this is even really something that I would normally collect, but it's definitely a cool piece. And for that person that is a huge Superman fan and huge Golden Age comic fan, and this could be their grail. So yeah, this is another one that could go pretty high. No idea where it could go. Could go for a few thousand all the way up to over 10,000 or plus. Who knows? We'll have to just kind of see how it all plays out. So this looks like some original art from Brazil, from Ebal, from the Flash. So it's pretty interesting that there's OA as well mixed in with the comic books. So here we have an Avengers. It's Avengers 4, but in Mexico it's actually Avengers 1 from La Prensa. First Silver Age appearance of Captain America. This one's signed by Stan Lee. This is a difficult book to find. Printed in 1965. Yeah, 6.0. That's I'd say a high grade copy, and to have it signed by Stan Lee. This has the potential. We've seen a number of Stan Lee signed books go pretty high, foreign wise, lately. So this one could definitely probably end up going for maybe a couple $1,000s. There's just kind of a lot of uncharted territories with this auction. A lot of books that you don't really see come to auction very often. So that'll be just kind of fun to watch. I'm trying to see when this was signed by Stan. So signed in 2014. I know there's a Mexican collector. I believe he has another one of this issue signed by Stan as well, and he's asking, I think, $1,000 for it or something like that. But it's a raw copy. So potentially if this goes high, it might be worthwhile for someone to buy that raw copy and then send it to CBCS and get the signature verified. Because depending on how well this one does, it could be a good potential there to make some profit if you wanted to sell it. All right, so then we've got the Golden Age, Brazilian, the Globo. I never know how to pronounce these books. But beautiful cover, contains Marvel Mystery Comics 40 cover with extensive revisions. Has All Winners 5, Marvel Mystery Comics 38, and Pep Comics 18 in it from Brazil. Pretty nice book. Nazi Human Torch cover. These aren't easy to come by, and from 1944 for that paper to survive from Brazil is definitely not easy. So any of these Golden Age Brazilian books are going to be pretty difficult, and I feel like they're probably going to do pretty well at auction. It's just, and I feel like Golden Age guys have the money and they want to own what's the rarest. So some of this Golden Age Brazilian stuff definitely has the potential to go real high. All right, next on the list is the Tales of Suspense 39 from Germany. Not a particularly hard book to find. Kind of hard to find, in decent grade. But I think there are a couple, 9.0 plus of these on the census. This one's got some kind of staining on it. Not the best looking copy at 7.0, but still a pretty book. The thing with these German books is that these were printed in 1975. So they weren't printed in the Silver Age like some of the Mexican and Brazilian stuff. But they did use the original covers. Some of them were recolored, but they're all in German. And it kind of seems like pretty much the best rule of thumb, I'd say, is the closest the comic is to the American release date, and how close is the cover as well to the American cover, and that it contains the actual story inside. I feel like those three things are kind of the most important qualities for a comic to have, to kind of like gauge the value for a foreign comic. So if you've got something that was printed, 1966 in America, and they reprinted it in, let's say, 1968 in Mexico, and it has the right cover, has the right interior story, a book like that's going to be worth way more than something like this, where Tales of Suspense 39 was printed, in the early 60s, and here we are, 12 years later, reprinting it in German. It's still an important book, still a great book, still a beautiful book. And definitely should have value, but it's just not as hard to come by as the older Silver Age books you'd get from Mexico and from Brazil, and even some of the European countries as well did have books come out in the Silver Age. Germany did have a run of books that they had the first Galactus and First Silver Surfer. FF48 was printed in Germany in the 60s. The first Black Panther was printed in the 60s. So these books from Williams Verlag was kind of like a second run, but they actually used all the key covers, which is important. I'm a cover collector more so than a story collector, so having the cover is important for me. All right, so here we've got this is the first appearance of Robin in Brazil. I can't remember which text story it is. Let's see if it has it on the label here. Origin, first appearance of Robin. Contains Detective Comics 38 story. O Lobino 13. So this was just restored, has trimming on all three edges, color touch, pieces added, glue, staples replaced, reinforced. So a lot of work done to it. But beautiful book, definitely, not many of these going to be found laying around, especially from 1941. And it has the classic Robin cover, that was used in his first appearance in America. This book belongs to Rob Fordham. I guess he bought this not that long ago, and I thought he was buying it kind of for the PC, but he was like, "Oh no," he's like, "I'm throwing it up to heritage auctions." So hopefully this goes well for him. It's already up to $750, so I think, with still 30 plus, or what, 20 something days plus to go, I think he's gonna probably do just fine with this book. All right, so that's that one. I'll go through a couple more. All right, so another German book, Tomb of Dracula 10, 5.5. This book wasn't a hard book to find 5 years ago. Much harder to find now, and now we've actually had some very high sales on eBay, and a couple other places, people selling them on Instagram, Facebook, or whatnot. But they're selling anywhere from 300, 400. Some have even sold in the thousands range. So this book has definitely picked up some steam. I think a lot of people are excited for Blade to come into the MCU. It's supposed to be happening here in the next couple of years. So a lot of guys are collecting this cover set. And there aren't really a ton. I think there's only like 6 or 7 in the set, so it's a pretty easy set to complete. Really, the hardest one, I think, is the Swedish one, to find a nice grade copy of it. So this one, it's getting some love at the auction. It's only at $43, but I think a lot of people have it on their radar. So this is how I'm doing it. It's actually, most viewed. So that one's obviously getting a lot of views. Let's see where we're going next. I don't know much about this one. So this is Swedish? Yep, this is a Swedish Batman and Robin 13. Contains Tech Comics 198 and 210. There's been a few of these that have sold for quite a bit on American eBay over the years. This one's in pretty rough shape. The spine of cover completely split and reattached with tape. Cover and first wrap detached. So let's see how it does. It's a cool book. I like the red part of Batman's costume there. His cowl looks interesting with the red color on it. All right, and then after that we've got ASM 129 from the Netherlands, 4.5. So kind of a lower grade and not a super hard book to find. And books from the Netherlands, you gotta just kind of be patient. They do show up, but this one, it's actually kind of a square bound, kind of a thicker format. But the cool thing over this one is this is the front and the back cover. They use the cover twice, like on both sides of it, so it'll look good in the slab. 4.5. I'm sure there's much higher grade copies out there, but this is this and ASM 300 are pretty much like the big sets to build. So those are pretty much always going to be very popular books to collect for foreign collectors. And I feel like you could buy like a pretty nice copy of this for right around $100. From someone that's selling books in the Netherlands, maybe 200 now. I think my prices are kind of outdated because a lot of the books I bought several years ago. But you could probably find yourself a nicer copy for a couple $100. But it's still cool to see it at auction. All right, let's see. 82 from Brazil. Beautiful, I guess they're kind of redrawn covers containing Namor and Human Torch. This one says it contains Marvel Mystery Comics 82, Submariner 22, and Marvel Family 8. And the cover is Marvel Mystery Comics 82 with extensive revisions. Yeah, real pretty cover. I think these are all new, almost magazine size, so they have to go in the magazine size slabs. But like I said, I don't know much about them, so I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about what I don't know much about. Same with this one. It's Eerie 1. It says UK edition. Contains Eerie 1, The Strange Worlds, number 2. So, cool cover. Kind of a creepy looking cover, but not my wheelhouse really. So next we have something more along the lines of what I collect. This is a CBCS 4.5 El Sobrante Hombre Araña 38, which is the Avengers 1 for Mexico. This was printed in 1965. It has first appearance of all the Avengers. 4.5. It's a pretty decent grade for a book, for Mexico. At this point in time, 1965, it's pretty old. It's just kind of cool how in Mexico, the Avengers 1 was printed in the Spider-Man run. The cover is pretty much the same as the American, just everything's been translated into Spanish. No crazy different colorations or anything like that, but real hard book to find, real pretty copy. I was able to get one a few years ago, but I bought mine off of eBay from a seller, and it ended up the book had been restored and trimmed and all kinds of issues with it when I sent it to CGC, but I had kind of expected that anyways. But I probably wouldn't have paid as much as I did for it since it did have so many issues. But this is a real pretty copy for I'm not sure what this is going to sell for, but it'll probably get a premium because it is such a big key book in America, and the Mexican version is just so much harder to find. All right, so next we've got 6.5 Batman 227. Real pretty. This is the Brazilian edition. Great colors on it. Black and the orange really go well together. I think this one was being sold in the foreign comic group not too long ago, because I remember seeing that name written on Batman's shoulders. But besides that, it's pretty nice looking copy. It probably has some rust on the staples, which is pretty typical of Brazilian. Any Brazilian comic, even the more modern stuff, tends to get rusty staples, from the 90s back. But these have sold for pretty high prices in the past. I can't quite think off the top of my head, but these Neil Adams covers are just a big hit in the foreign comic community, so they tend to go for a premium. This one's a fun set to build. So 6.5, I think that's going to go for a decent amount of money, and whoever submitted that book will probably be happy because it's a cool book, not a super easy book to find in Brazil, especially in decent condition. So 6.5 is pretty nice condition. All right. So next we've got another German books. It looks like Spider-Man 50, German edition. 7.5. It's a nice copy. I'd say fairly average for Germany. Not outstanding, but not bad either. 7.5. That's a good grade for any foreign comic, really. Oops, what happened? But not sure. Let's see. This one's up to $100 already. So this you could probably go on German eBay and find a copy in about the same condition for probably right around $50, or maybe a little more, maybe a little less. and if you really wanted to go all out, you could pay a little bit more and probably find a really high grade copy. But for whatever reason, this book just doesn't come up for sale on German eBay. At least when I was checking German eBay all the time. I honestly haven't really kept up with it as much as I used to, just because as things started getting more and more expensive, I just kind of started, putting my money elsewhere. But it's a nice book, nice looking cover, good font. I like these books tend to have like a newsprint cover, like the cover is the same basic paper as the inside of the comic. So they actually press pretty well, but they can they can be a little delicate, so you gotta just be careful with these. So that's 7.5 there. So after that, we've got another Brazilian e-ball. This is Action Comics 242, the first appearance of Brainiac 5.0. So this is a pretty nice condition. Not terrible, but not super high grade. For Brazil, I would think like a high grade copy would be like a 7.0. So 5.0, is still nice. It's got somebody's name written on the cover, which is, I guess, pretty common and around the world. A lot, you see it everywhere. But it'll be interesting. I've got 2 copies of these actually at CGC now, so I'm very interested to see how this does. I had planned to sell one of them. One's low grade, one's probably going to come back right around 5.0, same as this. But depending on how this does at auction, I might be considering sending a couple things into Heritage next time they do another international comics auction. All right, so we've got Batman 84 from Sweden. So it's cover detached. Looks like the staples are really rusted, so it probably just rusted right through the paper. Oops. Great Catwoman cover. Classic Catwoman cover with the cat screeching on the front. And these books tend to sell for a premium on eBay from when they do sell. I've seen when they're slabbed, they can go $300-$400 on eBay, and raw they sell for $100-$200. So it'll be interesting to see what this does at Heritage, since things tend to sell for a premium at Heritage. Alright, so next we've got Iron Man 1 from Chile, 8.0, which is a super high grade, I would say, for a Chilean book, from 1971. This is from the Gabriela Mistral is the publisher. So this book is funny because I bought one. A guy in Uruguay, I believe, started listing a bunch of super hard to find books from this publisher. I bought this one. I bought a Conan 1 from him and a couple other books, and I let people know in the chat that kind of the foreign comic chat I'm in. I'm like, hey, this guy's posting all kinds of crazy stuff. So this is actually, Josh bought this one off eBay. At the same time, I can't remember, the prices were like insanely cheap. It was, I think, $50, $60, it was under $100 shipped. I remember that much. And so he ended up, I think, getting the nicer Iron Man 1, and I got a pretty nice Conan 1. And then I ended up trading my Iron Man 1 to John Z for some other stuff. Or maybe I sold it to him, I can't remember. But yeah, so then Josh got his slab and ended up either selling it, or I think he gave it away at a raffle or something on his whatnot. So then whoever bought that has it listed, I think, for something kind of crazy, like $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 on eBay. Definitely not going to sell for that much, or at least in my experience, it's not going to. I think I did sell mine to John Z, and I think I sold it for like $300 to $350. I can't remember. But yeah, so this could, if someone's trying to find the real rare copy of Iron Man 1, this is it. But Iron Man 1 isn't like a real huge key anyways. So it's just kind of a gamble. You don't know anyone's going to really pay up for a rare appearance of Iron Man 1. It's a cool book nonetheless. I like the purple. It's a beautiful copy. I like the store stamp, so it'll be interesting to see what it does. All right, we'll do one more, and then I got to get back to work. So this is a high-grade copy of Journey into Mystery 85, I think it is. Yeah, Journey into Mystery 85 from Brazil, Ebal publisher. So third appearance of Thor, the first appearance of Loki. I love the recoloring that they did on this cover. Like I've said a bunch of times, variation seems to be like what kind of really gets people into foreign comics. So the variation on this comic, with the coloring and all that is really interesting, and I think what's going to probably draw more money and more bidders than, the books that are literally just a carbon copy of the American version. So yeah, I don't know if he's wearing pants or what. It kind of looks like he's just got like a little unitard on, but Loki's looking a little crazy. And the blue background and the different colors, it just kind of overall adds a nice element to this book. 7.0, like I said, high grade for this. This one, funky looking staple there, rusty staple. But 7.0, you're probably not going to find too many higher than that, unless you get real lucky. So we'll see where this one goes. Let's see what the back cover looks like. Pretty cool back cover. We'll do a couple more. All right, another hard to find Brazilian book in high grade, 7.0 Batman 181, the first appearance of Poison Ivy, off-white to white pages. Yeah, this is a real clean looking copy, a couple little things here or there, but beautiful book. These, I've heard from a couple Brazilian collectors that these are just become pretty much ghosts in Brazil. They're just extremely hard to find now. I had a real low grade copy, like really low grade, like taped interior and probably other major issues with it, color loss on the cover, and I sold it pretty cheap for $100. Maybe I think that was like a year ago. And I actually have a copy that's actually, I believe it's a 7.0 as well, in my personal collection. That it'll be interesting to see what this does at auction, since I have one myself. But I got real lucky about that one from Jim Wazi, who's known as the Brazilian comic hunter. And back when I bought it from him, he only charged me, I think it was like $75. Back then things were pretty inexpensive on the foreign comic front, so I'm definitely happy I got in when I did, before prices really kind of blew up. And I think that's kind of one question a lot of guys have is, what impact will this heritage auction have on foreign comics in general? They could be a game changer, or it could be an issue almost too, because I feel like there's so many foreign comic sellers that are watching this auction that they see these books hitting premiums they've never seen before. That's great, but heritage is a different animal than even eBay. Like books sell on heritage for way more than they sell on eBay. And I tend to think that eBay is kind of like the best way to kind of judge the market. So we'll see. Hopefully if there's a couple of huge sales on heritage, it doesn't make all the foreign sellers go crazy demanding more money. But definitely, I think a lot of these books are undervalued. So I definitely expect to see some value increases here. In the near term. Which is crazy to think, since the U.S. market is on such a downturn that, it's crazy to think that a lot of the foreign comics are still rising in value. So it just goes to show you that a lot of this stuff is undervalued, underappreciated, and there's lots of room to grow for all this stuff. All right, so I've got to get back to work. So this is kind of just like maybe a part one. I'll kind of keep going through maybe, and then as time time goes on and gets closer to the actual auction end date, we can kind of see where these books are. But there's, obviously still a lot of cool stuff to look at. So we'll check back in here in a little bit. All right, have a good one. Bye.